Tonight, we begin with something deeper, something older, but no less sacred. We're drifting beyond the edges of maps, not into bustling cities or towering kingdoms, but out where the sea stretches wide and the horizon never ends. This is not the story of soldiers or kings. It's the story of a runaway, a storm, a quiet mercy that follows even when we flee. So before we drift too far into the currents, take a moment to like the video only if slow, sacred storytelling is your kind of thing. If it helps your heart slow down, if it gives your mind a place to rest, subscribe. And in the comments, tell me, where are you listening from? What time is it for you right now? It still amazes me to see this little quiet space stretch across the world. Now take a breath and walk with me along quiet shorelines, into deep waters, beneath skies that remember every storm, where grace moves through the waves, where even those who run are never beyond reach, and where one man carried by the sea learned that mercy follows farther than fear ever could. Tonight, we drift beyond the edge of maps. The salt hangs heavy in the air. Waves stretch endlessly beneath the moon. And somewhere far from shore, a man is learning that we cannot outrun mercy. This is not just a story of storms and sea creatures. This is a story of wandering, of second chances, of how even in the deepest currents, grace follows. We are stepping softly into the book of Jonah, a quiet tale of rebellion, of storms, and of the great fish that carried more than a man in its belly. It carried a lesson for all of us. The sea has always been patient. It waits beyond the edges of cities and gardens, stretching into the unknown, carrying whispers and salt across the world. We stand near it now, but our eyes are turned inland, to the quiet streets of an ancient port. Somewhere in the dust and shadow, a man called Jonah walks with heavy steps. His name means dove, but his heart is not flying, it is sinking. The voice came to him clearly. There was no confusion, no hidden meaning. Go to Nineveh, it said. Cry out against their cruelty. Their wickedness has come before me. But Jonah does not walk toward Nineveh. He walks away. We follow him through the narrow alleys, past market stalls, past stone walls crumbling with time. His jaw is set. His pulse quickens. The voice of God still echoes behind him, but his footsteps carry him in the opposite direction, toward the sea. Tarshish, the farthest place he can imagine, a place beyond the reach of duty, beyond the weight of calling. We know this impulse well, the ache to disappear, to run before the waves of consequence can rise. Jonah reaches the port. The sails ripple like ghostly wings above the harbor. Ships rock gently, tied to weathered docks. Salt stings the air. He buys passage, pays with silver, with fear, with the hope that the sea can carry him away from the voice that knows his name. The crew does not ask questions. Mariners hardened by storms have no interest in prophets or fugitives. They prepare the ship, eyes on the horizon, voices low with superstition. Jonah boards, his sandals scraping wood worn smooth by countless departures. The ropes are untied, the ship drifts from shore, and for a moment it feels as if running works. The land fades, the waves stretch endlessly ahead. But the sea is not silent. We feel the shift before it begins. The pressure in the air, the swell of wind. The clouds gather like bruises on the horizon. The sails strain. The ship creaks. The storm does not arrive in a rush. It unfolds, slow and certain, like a judgment long withheld. The waves rise higher. The sky splits with lightning. Rain lashes the deck. The crew cries out, their prayers lost in the roar. Every man calls to his own God. Their hands strain on ropes, their eyes wide with dread. Below deck, Jonah sleeps, his body still, but his spirit adrift in deeper waters. The captain finds him, shakes him, voice rough with fear. How can you sleep? Get up. Call on your God. Perhaps the storm will listen. But Jonah knows the storm has already heard him. The sailors cast lots, ancient stones tumbling across the deck, seeking blame in symbols and chants. And the lot falls to Jonah. They demand the truth, the story behind the storm. And slowly, quietly, he speaks. I am a Hebrew, he says. I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. The words settle like stones into the restless air. The men pale. Fear deepens. Jonah confesses his flight, his disobedience, the reason the waves rise against them. The storm thrashes, the ship groans, and Jonah, shoulders bowed beneath the weight of consequence, offers himself to the sea. Throw me overboard, he says. The storm will still. They hesitate, but the storm does not. Reluctantly, they lift him. The sea yawns wide, and Jonah falls, not just into water, but into surrender. The waves close over him. The storm begins to calm, and the sailors, trembling, offer prayers to the God they now fear, the God who commands the sea. We drift in silence now, above the dark waters where Jonah sinks, his body swallowed by depths, his heart heavy with failure. But even here beneath the currents, the story is not finished. Mercy waits in strange places, and somewhere below, in the cold quiet, a great fish rises to meet him. The sea is quiet now, but beneath its surface, the story continues. We drift downward, past shafts of fading light, into the deep, the place where currents twist unseen and silence presses close. Jonah sinks, limbs heavy, lungs burning with the ache of breath withheld. His thoughts scatter like silt in the tide. Regret, sorrow, the strange finality of surrender. But the sea is not empty. From the shadows, a presence moves, a vast creature, ancient as the waters themselves. The great fish rises. Its body shimmers with scales that catch faint light. Its mouth yawns wide, not with hunger, but with purpose, and Jonah is drawn in. We feel the shift as the world closes around him. Wet stone heaving muscle, the deep thrum of life in a place no man was meant to dwell. The belly of the fish is dark, but not silent. The walls pulse with the rhythm of tides and blood. The sea presses in, but does not consume. Jonah curls inward, knees drawn to chest, heart pounding in this strange sanctuary. Days blur into nights, though time loses meaning here. The creature moves, gliding through deep currents, carrying Jonah further from shore, further from all he knew. But even here, mercy breathes. In the confines of flesh and bone, in the quiet of consequence, Jonah begins to pray. His voice is hoarse, raw from salt and surrender, but steady. In my distress I called to the Lord, he says, and he answered me. From the depths of the grave I cried for help, and you listened. His words rise, carried by currents unseen. The deep surrounded me, he continues. Seaweed wrapped around my head. I sank down to the roots of the mountains. His palms press against the walls of his living prison. His spirit reaches beyond them. But you brought my life up from the pit, he whispers. When my strength failed, I remembered you. The fish glides through the ocean's vast arteries, unseen by ships, untouched by storms. Jonah's prayers fill the hollow space, echoing against scales and sinew. There is no audience, no temple, only the sea, the creature, and the quiet persistence of mercy. Time weaves onward. Jonah reflects, not just on his flight, but on the hand that followed him into failure. Those who cling to worthless idols, he murmurs, forfeit the grace that could be theirs. His voice steadies. But I, with a song of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good." His final words ripple outward, soft but resolute. Salvation comes from the Lord, and with that the sea shifts again. The fish moves with purpose now, rising from the depths. Water grows brighter, lighter, filled with currents of change. The creature breaks the surface, salt spray glittering beneath the sun. Its mouth opens, and Jonah is cast upon the shore. He tumbles onto sand, coughing, weak but alive. The waves recede behind him. The fish slips back into the deeps, and we remain on the shore, grains of sand clinging to skin, lungs pulling in air that smells of salt and new beginnings. The story is not over. The lesson is not finished. But for now, we rest. We remember that even in the darkest depths, grace waits, and that sometimes salvation swallows us whole, only to carry us safely to the place we tried to flee. The shoreline fades behind us, the salt still lingering on skin, the memory of the deep heavy in our bones. Jonah rises slowly, the sand clinging to his hands, his knees unsteady from days adrift in currents and shadows. The voice comes again, not in fury, but with quiet persistence. "Go to Nineveh," it says. "Proclaim the message I give you." There is no argument this time. Jonah walks. The road stretches long beneath an indifferent sky, across hills, through valleys, past cities that whisper of other lives. We travel with him, footsteps carrying the weight of lessons learned in the belly of consequence. Days blur into dust and wind. And then, Nineveh rises ahead, a vast city sprawling, humming with life and violence and forgotten prayers. Its gates loom, its towers pierce the haze. Its streets pulse with traders, soldiers, mothers, merchants. The heart of an empire known for cruelty, conquest, and stone walls thick with pride. Jonah enters. His steps are quiet, his eyes wide. He does not come with banners or armies. His voice is rough from salt, low with reluctance. 40 days, he says, and Nineveh will be overturned. The words drift through the streets, past market stalls, through alleys thick with unfamiliar scents. We expect them to laugh, to resist, to scorn this weary man wrapped in the scent of the sea. But the words sink deeper than we imagine. The people listen. Their hearts stir with something ancient, fear, hope, the unfamiliar ache of repentance. Word spreads, from the crowded streets to the palace walls. Even the king hears. He descends from his throne, lays aside his robes, covers himself in sackcloth and ashes, the language of sorrow, the uniform of humility. His decree echoes across the city. Let everyone turn from evil. Who knows? God may yet relent. We stand in the square as the city falls quiet, not with judgment, but with trembling anticipation, and heaven listens. Mercy, vast as the ocean, folds gently over Nineveh. The city is spared. Grace, unexpected, flows into stone walls and hardened hearts. But Jonah, he does not rejoice. His feet carry him beyond the gates, onto a barren hillside overlooking the city. His spirit churns with resentment. "I knew you were gracious," he whispers, slow to anger, abounding in love, quick to relent from sending calamity. His voice cracks beneath the weight of understanding. He had hoped for judgment, but mercy arrived instead. We sit beside him, beneath the sharp sun. Jonah builds a shelter, its meager shade a fragile barrier against the elements. His eyes stay fixed on Nineveh, watching, waiting, his heart tangled in frustration. But the lesson is not finished. A vine grows overnight, lush, green, broad leaves spreading above him. Its shade cools his skin, eases his anger. Jonah feels relief, fleeting but real. And then, just as swiftly, a worm comes. The vine withers. The sun rises fierce. The wind scorches. Jonah's spirit falters again. It would be better for me to die, he sighs, the words brittle in the dry air. And the voice comes, not harsh, but steady. Do you have the right to be angry about the vine? Jonah does not answer. The question lingers. The lesson unfolds. You are concerned for a plant, the voice continues. But should I not be concerned for Nineveh, for its people, for those who cannot tell right from left, even for the animals? We let the question sink into the soil, into the spaces between regret and redemption. The story ends here, not with resolution, but with reflection. We do not know Jonah's answer. We only know ours. That mercy moves wider than we expect, that even in cities wrapped in stone and pride, grace flows quietly. That we, like Jonah, are often carried into discomfort, not to punish us, but to teach. The road continues. The sea breathes behind us. The city of Nineveh pulses with new beginnings, and we walk forward, reluctant, learning, wrapped in the vast, persistent mercy of the one who does not give up on runaways, on rebels, or even on reluctant prophets. The road stretches behind us now. Faint footsteps across sand, the salt of the sea still resting on our skin, the distant hum of Nineveh fading beneath the clouds. Jonah walks beside us, his shoulders heavy, his spirit quieter than before. The storm has passed. The fish has retreated to deeper waters. The city has been spared. And yet, within him, the waves still stir. The ache of being known, of being called, of being carried through rebellion into reluctant obedience. It lingers like the tide that never truly recedes. We walk slowly through the wilderness beyond Nineveh. The earth cracked beneath the heat. The sky stretched wide and empty. Jonah does not speak. His eyes drift across the barren hills, the wind lifting dust around our feet. The journey has shaped him, but the questions remain. Why does mercy follow so far? Why does grace rise even for those we resist? The voice of God lingers like mist, gentle, persistent, never forced. We remember the storm, the dark sky curling over the waves. We remember the great fish, silent beneath the currents. We remember the city, hardened, then softened, its people bowed beneath unexpected grace. And still, we understand Jonah's ache. Mercy stretches wide, but our hearts often fold inward. The road turns now, winding toward familiar shores. The sea breathes in the distance, restless but calm. We pause at the water's edge. Jonah lowers himself onto the rocks, eyes fixed on the horizon. The past lingers here, in the creak of wooden ships, in the salt that clings to the breeze. The same sea that once carried him away now laps quietly at his feet. We sit beside him, letting the silence settle, the lessons untangle. The story of Jonah does not end with grand declarations. It ends in questions, in the quiet return to the edge of understanding. God's voice does not thunder, it whispers still. Should I not care for them? It asks. Should I not carry compassion beyond borders, beyond grudges, beyond what you think is deserved? We feel the words drift across the waves, across the years, across the restless corners of our own wandering. The sea is patient. Mercy waits beneath its surface. And we, like Jonah, learn that running leads us not away from grace, but deeper into its relentless, undeserved reach. The sun lowers beyond the horizon, casting gold across the water. The road continues, winding beyond what we can see. And still, the story follows. The quiet, sacred reminder that no one outruns mercy. Not the prophet, not the city, not even us. The waves stretch endlessly before us, their dark surface rising and falling beneath the weight of the sky. Long after the storm has quieted, Long after the fish has slipped beneath forgotten currents, the sea remains. It is not finished. Neither are we. Jonah's story folds back into the water, into the edges of ancient maps, into the quiet corners of our memory. But the lessons ripple outward, carried on tides that never cease. We walk along the shore now, each step sinking into sand shaped by countless waves before us. The soul clings to our skin. The air hums with the endless pulse of the ocean. The sea remembers. So do we. Jonah tried to run, from the voice that called him, from the mercy that followed, from the grace he believed should be measured, earned, withheld. We know that run. We've traced those footsteps across our own uncertain landscapes, but the sea has no borders, and neither does mercy. The great fish swallowed more than Jonah that day. It carried a reminder that even the depths cannot silence grace, that even rebellion cannot outrun the patience of God. We stand at the edge of the water, and the story lingers, etched into every wave that curls toward the shore. The lesson is not about punishment. It is about pursuit, about the quiet, relentless way love follows us, even when we resist, even when we forget. The city of Nineveh still breathes somewhere beyond the hills. Its people changed, spared, held within the wide reach of compassion. Jonah's voice still echoes on the wind, tangled in frustration, softened by reluctant understanding. And the sea still calls. It always does. We watch the horizon blur into mist, the line between sky and water dissolving. The story is not a closed book. It drifts with us, through quiet nights, through long wanderings, through the hidden places we carry in our hearts. Mercy, like the ocean, surrounds us, and we, like Jonah, are learning to stop running, to listen, to be still beneath the weight of undeserved grace. The sea never ends. Neither does the love that moves through it. And as the waves curl softly around our feet, we remember. The story carries on, and so do we. The surface of the water is calm now, the waves smoothing themselves beneath the early light, the air cool with the breath of morning. But beneath the surface, the story still moves. We stand quietly at the edge, watching the ocean stretch beyond what we can see. It is here, beneath the waves, that Jonah learned what many of us forget. We do not outrun grace. We sink into it. His story is not about a man and a fish alone. It is about us, the places we run to, the silences we keep, the mercy that finds us in deep waters. We remember how the storm rose, how the ship groaned under the weight of consequence, how the sea pulled Jonah down. But even then, mercy was already swimming toward him. The great fish was not sent to punish, but to preserve, to hold him in a place of surrender, to remind him that the deep is not outside of God's reach. We listen to the waves, and we hear the same lesson whispered through the currents. We are not alone, even when the water rises above our heads. We remember Nineveh, the city Jonah could not love, the people he did not believe worthy. Yet grace walked through their streets anyway, and they changed. The fish, the storm, the city, all different shapes of the same mercy. It chases us. It waits in strange places. We often believe grace comes wrapped in comfort, in ease. But Jonah's story shows us the opposite. Grace is sometimes rough, relentless, wrapped in salt and shadow. But it does not abandon, even when we try to abandon ourselves. We press our feet into the wet sand now, feeling the pulse of the ocean beneath us. The sea has not forgotten Jonah's story. It carries it in every wave, every curl of foam, every deep blue current that winds beneath the surface. And we carry it too. The reminder that running ends not in distance, but in surrender. that God does not lose us in the depths, that the story beneath the waves is one of learning and mercy and love that follows farther than we thought possible. The sun rises higher, the horizon stretches endlessly, and still the story continues, beneath the waves, within us, never finished, never forgotten. The sea never forgets the sound of grace. We listen now, standing at its edge, as the waves curl softly along the shore, carrying the quiet memory of a prophet, a storm, a city, and the great fish that move beneath it all. Jonah's story lingers here, but it has always been more than his alone. It is ours. The moment we run, the moment we resist the quiet pull of compassion, we join him, drifting, fleeing, tangled in the belief that distance can shield us from the hand that holds us. But the mercy that moves the sea also moves through us. It follows, it waits, it teaches. We remember how the storm rose, not as punishment, but as a reminder that we are never truly untethered. We remember how the fish came, not as an end, but as a strange, sacred beginning. We remember Nineveh, not as a city of enemies, but as a living picture of what grace does when it is given room to breathe. Jonah's reluctance echoes in us more than we like to admit. His frustration, his resistance to compassion, his exhaustion in the face of mercy that stretches further than expected. But the story beneath the waves reminds us that grace does not need our permission. It moves with or without our consent, weaving through the deep, through reluctant hearts, through cities and souls desperate for new beginnings. We press our palms against the cool stones along the water's edge, feeling their weight, their permanence. But even stones are shaped by waves. Even the hardest hearts, the most stubborn spirits, soften when mercy keeps coming. The sea is patient, so is grace. We carry Jonah's story with us now, woven into our own wandering. The truth that failure does not disqualify us, that rebellion does not remove us from reach, that love follows deeper than we can sink. The sun hangs low over the waves, casting light across the restless blue. And as we stand here, we remember the mercy that moved the sea still moves through us. We do not outrun it. We are shaped by it, and the story carries on. The tide presses softly against the sand, pulling at the edges of our footprints, smoothing the shore beneath our feet. We linger here, watching the water move with quiet certainty. The sea has always taught us things we forget to learn elsewhere. It teaches us that we cannot outrun what was never chasing us, but what was always calling us home. Jonah's story taught that too. The moment he fled, the sea waited. The storm rose, not to punish, but to pause him. The fish came, not to devour, but to deliver him to a deeper understanding of mercy. And Nineveh, the city he despised, became the place where compassion arrived wrapped in ash and repentance, undeserved but undeniable. We drift with these lessons now, letting them settle beneath our ribs. The ocean does not rush. It teaches slowly, like the lapping waves smoothing jagged stones over time. The hard edges of Jonah's heart soften too, though not all at once, and neither do ours. We resist grace, not because it is weak, but because it is vast. It stretches wider than the walls we build, deeper than the distances we keep, farther than the reasons we give for withholding compassion. But grace does not listen to boundaries. It moves like the sea, across borders, through cities, into hearts unprepared to receive it. Jonah's reluctance, his questions, his exhaustion, they echo within us. But so does the quiet persistence of love. The same love that called him into obedience. The same love that followed him into the depths. The same love that carried him to Nineveh, to the hill outside the city, to the space where grace teaches that mercy is not measured by what we believe is fair, but by what God knows is necessary. We sit beside the sea now, its vastness stretching endlessly before us. The horizon fades into mist. The waves breathe steady against the sand. And we remember, grace is not a finish line. It is an ocean. We drift toward it, stumble through it, surrender to it. And every time we believe we've outrun it, it rises like the tide, reminding us that love follows, even here, especially here. Beneath the surface, the ocean holds its own secrets. The waves we see are only the beginning. Beneath them, currents twist unseen, carrying the weight of the world in silence. We stand at the shore, watching the water roll in, unaware of the steady movements beneath. Mercy is like that. We often miss the way it follows us, quiet, persistent, hidden below the noise of ordinary life. Jonah missed it too. His eyes were fixed on the storm, on the city, on his own frustrations. But beneath it all, grace moved. It carried him through defiance, through failure, through reluctant obedience. And it carries us too. The currents beneath the sea never stop moving, even when the surface looks still. Mercy moves like that, beneath pride, beneath fear, beneath the reasons we offer for resisting love. We drift with the tide now, feet pressed into sand softened by years of waves smoothing away edges. The ocean does not rush its work, neither does grace. Jonah's story is not polished. It is restless, wandering, filled with questions that sit heavy on the skin. But beneath every question, mercy rises. We see it in the fish that swallowed him whole, not to destroy, but to deliver. We see it in the storm that woke him, not to drown, but to disrupt his running. We see it in the city of Nineveh, hardened by history, softened by the quiet weight of compassion. And we feel it in ourselves, the slow, steady pursuit of grace beneath every moment we resist. The currents beneath the sea move without applause, without permission. Mercy does the same. It moves through cities, through broken hearts, through reluctant prophets. It moves through us, even when we drift away. We trace the horizon now, the sea blurring into sky, the line between them dissolving in mist. Jonah's story ends with questions, but the ocean keeps answering, with tides that return, with waves that rise, with love that follows farther than we can see. The currents we cannot see carry us still, and beneath it all, mercy moves. Quiet, certain, unending. The sea will always bring us back to the shore, even when we fight the currents, even when we sink beneath the waves, even when we run until our legs fail and our hearts fold in on themselves. Grace does not abandon the wanderer. It circles us like the tide, patient, steady, unafraid of the distance we try to create. We stand at the edge of the water now, the salt in the air, the horizon stretched wide with light. Jonah's feet touched this same sand when the fish delivered him from the depths. His knees hit the shore, his body heavy with exhaustion, his spirit tangled in unfinished questions. But the sea brought him back. Mercy carried him. Even when he tried to outrun it, we walk the shoreline now, our steps slow, the sand cool beneath our feet. The waves breathe in and out, whispering that every return is welcomed. The story of Jonah never ends at the fish, or the city, or the reluctant prayers. It loops like the tide, reminding us that grace waits at the shore, again and again. Mercy does not keep count. It waits, it follows, it restores. We listen to the soft rush of water folding over itself, the quiet reminder that the sea is never still, and neither is the love that chases us. Jonah's resistance echoes within us, the way we run, the way we question, the way we doubt that compassion could stretch that far. But grace does not recoil from our hesitation. It leans in. It moves through the waves, through the deep, through every place we thought we could hide, and it brings us back. We trace the shoreline, watching the water smooth the sand behind us, erasing the footprints, reminding us that we are never too far. The mercy that carried Jonah through the storm, through the belly of the fish, through reluctant obedience, it carries us too, and the shore is never closed. The sea always brings us back. We stand still now, the horizon burning gold, the waves curling around our ankles, and we remember the mercy that waits for us does not tire. It does not turn away. It stays, like the tide, like the love that follows, like the quiet grace that brings us home. The sea quiets itself eventually. Even the fiercest storm softens into a steady, rhythmic breath across the waves. We stand at the edge of that stillness now, the storm behind us, the clouds thinning into soft threads stretched across the sky. It is here, in the quiet after, that grace settles. Jonah's story rippled with resistance, waves of running, of reluctance, of anger wrapped in frustration with a mercy that stretched wider than he believed it should. But grace does not obey our boundaries. It waits. It weathers the storm. And when the sky clears, it settles around us like the steady pulse of the tide. We listen now, our feet pressed into the wet sand, the waves folding gently over themselves, reminding us that quiet does not mean absence. The stillness after the storm is where the deeper lessons unfold. Jonah learned it, crouched outside the city, his spirit tangled, his expectations of justice unmet. But beneath his bitterness, grace moved, the same grace that followed him across the sea, that carried him in the belly of the fish, that spared a city when it cried out for compassion. Mercy is not loud here. It does not shout its presence. It settles quietly beneath the surface of understanding, softening our edges, steadying our steps. We trace the horizon now, the water smooth as glass, the sun rising low beyond the waves. There is peace here, but not perfection. The questions remain. The ache of wanting the world to bend to our measure of fairness lingers. But grace is not concerned with fairness. It is concerned with love, with pursuit, with the patient, persistent calling home of every heart that resists. We carry Jonah's story within us. The storm, the stillness, the quiet frustration with a God who loves even those we struggle to understand. But we also carry the reminder that mercy does not change its shape to fit our expectations. It expands beyond them. The sea is still now, the sky stretched wide with morning light. And as we stand here, the story continues, not in chaos, but in calm. Grace settles, and so do we. The sea does not rush its return. It folds against the shore, steady, sure, repeating the quiet language of patience we so often forget. We sit now along the long shoreline of mercy, the waves curling soft against the sand, the sky stretched wide with the colors of fading evening. Jonah's story settles here too, not in triumph, not in tidy resolution, but in the unfinished ache of learning to stay. He could not outrun the call that followed him across the sea. He could not undo the grace that softened the city. And now, he cannot escape the quiet question that lingers like salt on the air. Will you stay long enough to see how mercy works? We feel that question pressed gently against us too. We are wanderers by nature, runners when grace asks more of us than we expect. But the shoreline of mercy is long. It curves beyond what we can see, waiting for us to stop, to rest, to watch as love does its quiet work. Jonah wanted justice wrapped in finality. He wanted wrongs to be met with swift consequence. But mercy is slower. It weaves through hardened hearts like waves smoothing sharp stones. It does not rush. It does not retreat. It stays. We watch the horizon now, the tide pulling in and out, the sky bleeding into twilight. The sea has always taught us patience. The story of Jonah teaches it too. That staying, remaining near the edges of discomfort, beside the places where compassion stretches beyond what feels fair, is where we learn the deep work of grace. Mercy does not always arrive with answers. Sometimes it arrives with questions, with the slow, steady ache of waiting for change we cannot control. But in the staying, in the stillness beside the long shoreline of mercy, we are shaped. Our edges soften. Our resistance weakens. Our hearts learn to make room for love that does not measure, that does not rush, that stays. The waves breathe steady now, the stars beginning to press through the darkening sky, and we remain here where grace lingers, where the shoreline never truly ends, where we learn to stay even when we do not yet understand. The tide is patient. It rises and falls with a rhythm older than our questions, shaping the shore slowly, gently, relentlessly. We walk along that shore now, feeling the sand beneath our feet cool and shifting, the sea breathing steady beside us. Mercy moves like this, unhurried, unthreatened by our resistance. Jonah's story taught us that. The tide never arrives all at once. It creeps in, unnoticed, then stays. The waves work patiently, softening sharp stones, carrying fragments of what was broken, smoothing jagged edges without asking for permission. Grace does the same. We often resist its work, the way Jonah resisted Nineveh, resisted the call, resisted the mercy that stretched beyond his understanding. But grace stays. It weaves through our stubborn places, through our weary protests, through the parts of us that long for justice to come quicker, harsher, smaller. The tide does not rush. It teaches us to stay, to notice, to be reshaped by mercy that does not measure by worth, but by love. We trace the shoreline, the sea folding against the sand, the horizon blurring into a line of light. Jonah's reluctance lingers here, the memory of frustration, of the aching tension between grace and what we think should be deserved. But mercy keeps teaching, the way the waves keep rising, the way the sea keeps pulling at the edges of the world. We learn to let go slowly, the way the tide erodes stones into smoothness, the way the water wears away walls built by fear or pride. Jonah's story is not a neat ending. It's a shoreline, long, winding, unfinished. The tide is still coming. Mercy is still shaping. We stand quietly now, letting the waves lap around our ankles, the salt lingering on our skin. The sea reminding us that change unfolds in rhythms we do not control. The tide teaches us to soften, to stay, to be shaped by the mercy that stretches wider than we imagined. The shoreline stretches beyond what we can see, and grace, like the sea, keeps coming. The sea has always carried things we could not. Broken ships, forgotten prayers, drifting stories lost to the horizon. It moves beneath us now, steady and sure, the waves folding gently toward the shore, carrying fragments of what we release. Jonah's story lingers here too, not in the struggle to hold on, but in the quiet invitation to let go. We feel the salt in the air, the sand cool beneath our feet, the sea stretching beyond what we can see. It has carried Jonah through his resistance, his surrender, his reluctance to believe that mercy could stretch so far. And it carries us too. We bring our fears, our expectations, our questions to the shore. We hold them tight, unwilling to trust the slow work of grace. But the sea waits, the tide rises, and in time, we release. We let the waves take what we cannot bear, the frustrations, the doubts, the unfinished ache of wanting justice to be simple, of wanting grace to be smaller. The water does not resist our grief, our resistance, our hesitations. It receives them. It carries them beyond the horizon, to places we cannot follow. Mercy does the same. We let go slowly, clumsily, and the sea reminds us that surrender is not failure, it is trust. Jonah let go of control, of certainty, of the illusion that grace belongs only where we believe it should, and we are called to do the same. We stand quietly at the shoreline, the waves curling around our ankles, the horizon blurring into mist and light. The sea carries what we cannot. Grace carries what we resist. And when we release, we make room for peace, for compassion, for the slow, steady work of love that does not rush, does not retreat, does not measure worth, only mercy. The tide moves steady now, the story drifting beyond what we can see, carried by currents that do not forget. We let go, and the sea carries the rest. The sea deepens beyond what our eyes can follow. Beneath the surface, beyond the swell of waves, past the pull of tides, there is a depth untouched by storms, undisturbed by noise. We stand at the water's edge, but we feel it, the vastness below, the unseen world of quiet currents and ancient shadows. It is easy to believe that if we sink far enough, we disappear. Jonah believed that too. As the sea closed over him, as the waters churned above, as the light dissolved into darkness, he must have wondered if grace could reach that deep. But mercy follows farther than we imagine. It follows beneath the surface, into the hidden places, into the deep where we think we are alone. We drift in that thought now, feeling the weight of the sea press against the sand, the steady pulse of waves folding in and out, never retreating entirely. Grace does not leave us, even here, even in the deepest waters of regret, of failure, of questioning. Mercy remains. Jonah's story carried him downward, into the storm, into the sea, into the belly of the great fish, but he was never beyond reach. The currents that held him were laced with grace. The fish that carried him was not punishment, it was preservation. The darkness was not abandonment, it was preparation. The depths did not silence love, they made space for surrender. We carry our own depths, the moments when the light fades, when the weight of choices presses heavy, when the noise of the surface world disappears. It is in those depths that we meet grace, not wrapped in ease, but in quiet persistence. The sea below is ancient. It remembers the stories that drifted to its floor, the ships lost to storms, the prayers whispered in sinking desperation, the names forgotten by history but held by mercy. Jonah's name sank too, but love pulled it upward. The same love that pulled him from the sea, that steadied him on the shore, that followed him to the gates of Nineveh, that softened the city, that taught him the uncomfortable reach of compassion. The same love that follows us now, beneath our failures, beneath our running, beneath the stories we think are finished. We trace the horizon, the sky wide with quiet clouds, the waves folding endlessly against the earth. The deepest waters do not frighten grace, they carry it, and when we sink, we do not disappear. We drift into the quiet certainty that mercy never leaves, not in the heights of hope, not in the depths of failure. We remain within its reach. The sea breathes steady. The story continues, and grace, vast as the ocean, holds us still. The sea breathes in, the sea breathes out, and beneath our feet, the shore rises to meet us, solid, steady, worn by the patient rhythm of waves. We stand here now, feeling the cool sand beneath our soles, watching the water fold endlessly across the beach. It is easy to forget the ground beneath us when the currents pull us away. Jonah forgot too. His story tangled in flight, in storm, in the depths of the sea. But even when the waves swallowed him, even when the fish carried him far from the known world, the shore waited. The ground beneath us, the promises of grace, the foundations of mercy, remains even when we drift. We press our feet into the sand now, remembering the feel of earth after days adrift in uncertainty. The sea curls around our ankles, and we breathe. Jonah's story did not end in the fish, or in Nineveh, or in questions shouted toward an unanswering sky. His story returned to the shore, to the steady reminder that we are not as lost as we believe. The ground beneath us holds the lessons we try to outrun. The sea carries us to them again and again. We trace the horizon, the waves breathing steady, the sky stretched wide with quiet clouds. It is easy to lose sight of what anchors us when we sink beneath the noise of regret or fear. But grace is patient. It waits beneath our feet, rising to meet us when we return. We return not because we are worthy, but because mercy is wider than our wanderings. Jonah's return was not triumphant. It was tired, tangled, unfinished. But the shore still held him. The earth beneath his feet did not judge his questions, his frustrations, his reluctant obedience. It held him steady, reminded him and us that the journey back is never denied. The ground is always here beneath the currents, beneath the resistance, beneath the ache of wanting love to arrive in neater forms. We stand quietly now, the waves curling soft, the sand cool and certain beneath our steps. The sea does not erase us when we run. It returns us, reshaped, softened by grace. The shore beneath our feet is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of remembering who we are, where mercy finds us, how love never forgets. We remain here breathing with the tide, grounded in the quiet truth that we are home, held not by our strength, but by the shore that never moved, by the grace that never left. The salt clings to our skin long after we leave the water. The weight of the sea, the taste of its currents, the memory of its depth. They follow us, lingering beneath our clothes, etched into our hair, folded into the quiet spaces between each breath. Jonah carried that weight too. The salt of the sea was woven into his story long after the waves receded. He walked the roads beyond the shoreline with the memory of storms in his bones, the ache of surrender pressed behind his ribs. We feel it too, the things the sea carries back to us, the lessons heavy as salt, quiet as tides pulling at the shore. We walk slowly now, the sand cool beneath our feet, the air thick with the smell of water and memory. The sea never leaves us unchanged. It presses its mark against us, reminding us of what we carried into the depths, what we tried to outrun, what mercy met when we believed we were too far gone. Jonah carried more than salt back to the land. He carried the reminder that running does not erase calling, that storms do not silence grace, that even in the belly of failure, love makes room for second chances. We trace the horizon now, the sky bending toward dusk, the water breathing steady beside us. The salt on our skin stings gently, an echo of the deep reminding us we were never lost beneath the waves. The things we carry, the regrets, the questions, the unfinished prayers, they follow us beyond the sea, but so does grace. Mercy lingers like salt, unseen but unmistakable, woven into our steps, our stories, our reluctant acceptance that love follows farther than we believed it could. Jonah's story was not erased by the storm. It was shaped by it. His calling was not abandoned beneath the waves. It was refined by them. The weight of salt and sea did not crush him. It reminded him. We carry that reminder too. the weight of love that does not let go, the ache of lessons learned in the deep, the quiet truth that we are never beyond reach. The sea smooths the sand around our feet now, the tide curling softly, the salt pressing against our skin like a memory we cannot forget, and we do not need to. The weight of salt and sea is not a burden. It is a reminder that grace follows, that love holds, that the stories shaped by waves and wandering are never beyond redemption. The surface of the sea glimmers in the fading light, its waves folding gently toward the shore, its edges soft, its rhythm steady. But beneath it, currents twist unseen, vast rivers of movement threading through the deep, carrying the weight of the world without sound, without spectacle. We stand at the water's edge, feet pressed into the cool sand, watching the gentle rise and fall, knowing that below the surface, the sea never truly rests. Mercy moves like that, quiet, hidden, steady beneath what we can see. Jonah never saw the great fish until it swallowed him whole. He never saw the currents carrying him toward surrender, toward grace, toward the strange, sacred unfolding of a story larger than his running. We do not always see the mercy moving beneath us either. It presses through the hidden places, through disappointment, through unanswered questions, through the unfinished ache of waiting for life to make sense. But grace does not need to be visible to be real. The currents beneath us move whether we see them or not. The sea holds us, whether we feel it or not. Love follows, whether we understand it or not. Jonah's resistance sank him, but it did not sever him from mercy. His questions carried him, but they did not carry him beyond the reach of grace. The unseen currents of compassion wound through every moment, through storm, through surrender, through the reluctant steps back toward Nineveh, toward the lessons waiting beyond his expectations. We feel those currents now, the steady, unseen pull of grace beneath our feet, beneath our regrets, beneath the stories we tell ourselves about being too far, too flawed, too finished. But mercy moves regardless. It moves beneath the waves of frustration, beneath the tides of doubt, beneath the surface noise of life unraveling in ways we cannot control. The sea does not ask for permission to carry us. Grace does not wait for our understanding to unfold. It moves, quietly, consistently, beneath the places we run, beneath the questions we hold too tightly, beneath the ache of believing we are beyond redemption. We trace the shoreline now, the waves curling in, the horizon stretched wide with the soft light of evening. The surface looks still, but we know better. The sea breathes, the currents move, mercy holds, and we drift with it, not because we understand, but because grace is not dependent on our awareness. It follows in the deep. It weaves through our resistance. It rises beneath us, carrying us back to shores we thought were lost. The currents beneath us teach us to trust the unseen, to believe in mercy that follows farther than our fears, in love that lingers long after we sink. We stand quietly, the water brushing our ankles, the story moving forward, beneath the surface, beneath our steps, beneath what we can see, and we let the mercy beneath us carry the rest. The sea stretches endlessly before us, its waves folding gently into the horizon, the line between water and sky dissolving in the soft hum of evening light. We stand at the shoreline, watching the horizon breathe, knowing it holds more than distance. It holds the quiet promise of what comes next. Jonah looked to the horizon too, the water behind him heavy with lessons, the land before him tangled in uncertainty. But the horizon follows us, just as mercy does. It stretches beyond what we can see, carrying with it the slow unfolding of grace we have not yet understood. We walk beside the waves now, the tide brushing softly against the sand, the salt lingering on the air, the sky stretched wide with fading gold. The horizon ahead reminds us that the story continues, even when we feel unfinished, even when the deep still clings to our skin. Jonah's story was not neat. It wandered through resistance, through storms, through reluctant obedience, through the quiet ache of learning that love stretches farther than our willingness to understand. The same horizon followed him, the space between what was and what could be, the line where the unknown waits with patient hands. We feel that space now, the distance between who we are and who we are becoming, between the questions we carry and the answers love whispers in time. The horizon ahead is not a boundary, it is an invitation to trust the sea that holds us, to believe in the mercy that follows, to walk forward even when the way is slow, the understanding incomplete. Jonah's reluctance does not erase his calling. His questions do not cancel the love that pursued him. The same is true for us. We drift toward the horizon now, our steps soft against the sand, the sky fading into dusk, the waves folding in and out, with a rhythm older than regret, steadier than fear. The mercy ahead of us waits. It lingers in the spaces we cannot yet see, the corners of the future shaped by grace we have not yet received. The horizon is wide, but mercy is wider. We carry that truth with us, the story still moving, the love still unfolding, the grace still stretching beyond every place we believed was the end. The sea does not end at the horizon. The story does not end with failure. And the mercy that follows us does not stop when the questions outnumber the answers. We stand quietly, the water brushing our ankles, the sky deepening into twilight, the horizon stretched wide with quiet promise. And we remember, the story continues, the horizon follows, and the mercy ahead of us waits, steady, certain, unafraid of the distance still to come. The sea never stops moving, even when the wind's quiet, even when the surface smooths like glass beneath the fading light. Beneath it all, the currents twist and fold, carrying stories farther than we can follow, holding fragments of the past, of longing, of hope adrift on salt and water. We stand at the edge of that vastness now, feet pressed into cool sand, eyes tracing the endless line where sea meets sky. It's easy to believe the story ends when we sink, that the moments of surrender, of failure, of drifting beyond the edges of who we thought we were, those are full stops, the conclusion of all that came before. Jonah thought that too. As the waves closed over him, as the storm swallowed his rebellion, as the fish carried him into the unknown, it must have felt like the story ended there. But grace does not sink. It floats. It follows. It carries. The story, like the sea, never truly ends. It folds back into itself, new currents rising beneath familiar waves, lessons circling like tides that never retreat entirely. We feel it now, the quiet, steady hum beneath our feet, the pull of the deep, the invitation to remember that we are always held, even when we drift, even when we run, even when the questions outweigh the answers. Jonah's story is not one of neat resolutions. It is a wandering, a surrender, a reluctant obedience shaped by the realization that mercy follows farther than we ever intended to go. The sea carried him, not as punishment, but as preservation. The fish held him, not as confinement, but as a strange sacred refuge. The city changed, not by force, but by the slow unfolding of compassion that could not be earned, only received. And still, the story moves. The waves press softly against the shore, the salt curling in the air, the sun leaning low against the horizon, casting the world in gold. The sea reminds us that the story never truly sinks. Even when we do, we carry pieces of Jonah within us, the resistance, the questions, the desire to measure grace by our own comfort, our own understanding. But mercy does not shrink to fit our expectations. It expands like the tide, like the deep, like the story that continues beneath every moment we thought was the end. We drift beside the waves now, each step quiet, the sand soft beneath our feet, the water breathing in and out with a rhythm older than fear, steadier than failure. The story rises, carried by the sea, carried by grace, unafraid of our reluctance, patient with our wandering. Jonah stood at the shore, salt clinging to his skin, the memory of the deep pressed into his bones, the ache of unfinished understanding heavy behind his ribs. But even there, the story breathed forward. Nineveh waited, not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a place where compassion could do its quiet, disruptive work. Jonah watched, weary, tangled in frustration with the grace that stretched farther than he believed it should. But the sea behind him whispered of mercy that does not seek approval, of love that does not ask for permission to unfold. We listen to that whisper now, the waves folding endlessly against the sand, the horizon blurring into soft light, the story moving forward, beyond the surface, beneath the deep. The mercy that carried Jonah carries us, through resistance, through regret, through reluctant obedience that does not disqualify us from being held by love that never leaves. The story never sinks, not beneath the weight of our doubts, not beneath the ache of our questions, not beneath the fear that we have drifted too far. Grace moves beneath it all, steady, certain, unafraid of our resistance, unthreatened by our fears. We stand at the shoreline, the water brushing our ankles, the salt pressing into our skin like a memory we cannot forget, like a promise we never truly lost. The story continues. The sea carries it, weaving through every moment we thought was final, reminding us that sinking is not the end, that being lost is not being beyond reach, that love holds, quietly, relentlessly, patiently. Jonah's story folded back into the waves, into the shoreline, into the wide, unfinished grace that carries every wandering heart. Ours does too. We remain here, at the water's edge, watching the tide breathe, feeling the quiet pull of the deep, reminding us that the story never sinks, that mercy never leaves, that the sea and the love that follows will always carry us home.